Hi, my name is George Love. I'm pastor at Hebron Presbyterian Church. This is Wednesday evening prayer for Wednesday, June 28th. Yesterday, Tuesday, we had the opportunity to visit WaterStep, which is an organization in Louisville, a local organization that makes an international impact. They do a number of things to make clean water accessible to folks in areas where it is not accessible. And the open house at their location in Louisville today, there was a representative, a field ambassador from Sierra Leone, who spoke about the difference it's made in Sierra Leone and how happy he is to be a part of that, and the difference it makes in people's lives at a number of levels. But it's a health matter. It's amazing what having clean drinking water can do in terms of just elevating the health of an area, and then just the trickle out effect of that in a number of ways. It was just really inspiring to hear about. I mention that partially because one of the things that they do is collect shoes, which are then sold to a third party who buys them and then sells them to other folks around the world who resell them. But they get the shoes that they have through donations. People collect shoes and then donate to them, and then they sell them. And they say that the shoes translate into 3 pairs of shoes is water for a lifetime for one person. So it's an exciting thing that we have the opportunity to be a part of. We picked up a box, and we'll be setting that out sometime in the next little while, and then we'll have it out for a while collecting shoes that we will then take and share with them and be a part of that, providing water for folks. So an exciting thing yesterday, and look forward to having the opportunity to share more about that in the context of worship, and then also to be collecting those shoes as a number of organizations around our area do. I believe we've done it before, but continuing to be a part of that. And so it was exciting. Our primary thing that we do in this time together, and we do this every week, but I just wanted to be clear about it, because I don't know that clearly, if you're in our Sunday school, you know about it, and if you're using it as preparation in a Sunday school somewhere else, and you are using these videos to help get ready for your own Sunday morning class, you know what book we're using. But I feel like it's worth mentioning that we're in the Present Word, which is a curriculum of the Presbyterian Church, and we are in our summer 2023 book, and we've been going through a section that has been lifting up passages from the Old Testament prophets. And so this week it is Zechariah, and the passage is called Peace to the Nations. One of the things that we're doing right now at Hebron is having a sermon series that we are going into, I think it's the 5th week of this coming Sunday, but it's going to be 18 weeks, and it's in the book of Romans. We're going all through the book of Romans. I say that to share that I've got a lot of Romans themes on my mind, a lot these days, and so I'm seeing Romans in places, and I see it a couple places in this lesson. So for our Hebron folks, I will point out a couple of spots where Romans pops up, and the immediate places where it talks about peace to the nations. So actually both pieces are there, peace to the nations. Peace being shalom, and it will make the point in the lesson again that shalom is much more than the absence of war or the absence of violence, but it is the presence of things that go towards a healthy, just lifestyle, and that where all can live in peace, all can live in shalom. And then the title of it, Peace to the Nations, lifts a little bit of language out of the Zechariah passage, but that bit about the nations is Pauline, Romans idea in terms of that Paul's making the argument that the God's good news is for the Jews and the Gentiles, that it is for all, it is for the nations. And so you can go back to the Old Testament, and I think I was pointing that out last week with the prophet that we had last week as well. But it's not, the idea isn't new with Paul. It's one of the prophets would lift up on occasion that that God was using the people, not just to have that covenant relationship with the people, but that the people might be a beacon of light to the nations. And just to put a bow on that, the peace part, the shalom that I was lifting up first, we have been talking about peace and the fullness, the holistic nature of the idea of shalom, both in Sunday school and in the early chapters of Romans. So these things are, it's exciting to me when there's a synergy to what we're doing, and when the scriptures sort of read to one another and help illuminate one another. So in this Zechariah passage, there is a lot of talk about donkeys in this Sunday school lesson. This is probably the most donkey Sunday school lesson I've ever had. Now, I guess Palm Sunday schools could have done that, but this one really focuses intently on the donkey. But it talks about the one who will arrive in Jerusalem on a donkey, because that is the beginning of this passage, and clearly that makes us think of Palm Sunday. And clearly this passage was on Jesus' mind when he sent his disciples to go get a donkey for him to ride into Jerusalem. So let's hear just the opening of this passage, the 9th chapter of Zechariah, and we'll just read the first, this is verses, I think 9, maybe just 9. We'll read 9 and parts of 10. Rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. Lo, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations. So the first verse there, the chapter 9, verse 9, is clearly the one that we think of in connection with Palm Sunday, the Jesus being the one who's humble and riding on a donkey on that particular occasion. And then the second piece of that is the shalom piece, that what that king's going to do is to cut off the chariot from Ephraim, the war horse from Jerusalem, the battle bow shall be cut off, so that they will not be about war. And this picks up on this idea that if a king was riding a horse, that tended to be for military intent. But if the king's on a donkey, the king is riding a donkey, then it means the king's coming for peaceful purposes, for peaceful means. And so that is, it cites an Old Testament passage where Solomon rides a donkey, and he's riding it on the occasion when he's being presented as a new king of Israel. So a peaceful occasion, and so he is on the donkey. And Jesus selects the donkey to ride into Jerusalem when he is welcomed as king, and connecting himself up with being a peaceful king. And again, here the wholeness of the word peace. Jesus is a king who will be about peace in its fullness. In its fullness, so that we experience it as peace between potentially people who could be at war will be at peace, but also relationships will be at peace. We will be at peace. There will be a justice that will be present. All these things will be a part of the peace that Jesus will bring. So the first section, King of Peace, the piece I would lift out of there is just again this definition about shalom. He desires to command shalom, peace, which goes beyond the cessation of hostilities to include good relations, prosperity, restoration of health, and even physical safety. And that this is, and going back to the second verse we read, which was again chapter 9, verse 10, It ended with that line, he shall command peace to the nations. It goes beyond just the people of Israel, but the king will be a king who will bring peace for the people of Israel, but also then peace for the nations. And then when we bring that into our Christian understanding of this applying to Christ, you can see that we would think about Jesus bringing peace to all the world. There's a section called Donkey with the Heart of a Hero, which is kind of interesting, but I'm not going to pull much from there. And then in the stepping into the word section, we are called to be like the donkey. I really like this idea. We are called to be like the donkey in that we are called to, like the donkey, carry Christ forward into the world. So as the donkey carried Christ into Jerusalem, we, followers of Christ, are called to carry Christ forth into the world. And so the last section goes into some qualities of what our worship looks like, and of what it means, the way in which we carry Christ. We carry Christ with intelligence. We use our minds, and we could think about that in a number of ways. What does that mean to carry Christ forward with our intelligence? We carry Christ forward in such a way that we take actions that are cooperative and not adversarial. And so what does it mean to carry forth Christ in a way that is cooperative, and to do that in a world where there are a number of religious traditions, a number of Christian religious traditions, but a number of religious traditions that are not Christian? And how do we navigate the world and find common cause in places where we can do good together, and at the same time being faithful to our Christian identity? Then the last section, it says, finally, we serve our Lord as people with God-given nobility. This is a really interesting thing. It says, like the donkey who carried Jesus, we can walk through the world with confidence and grace. And it reminds us of words from 1 Peter, where it says, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people. And talks about how that language is, the takeaway for us isn't intended to be, look at us, wow, we are all that. But it is to give us a confidence to share Christ, and to be people who share our faith in a way that is winsome and confident with folks we come into contact with, knowing that this is what God has called us to do. So the final sentence is intelligent, cooperative, noble. These are the qualities of Christians who want to worship God and carry Jesus forward in everything they think, do, and say. So we'll have a good time talking about donkeys, and think a little bit probably about Palm Sunday and how this passage is applied with Palm Sunday. And I hope spend some time on that conversation around those items at the end, the intelligence and being cooperative. And then the final one was the idea that we have a God-given nobility that should give us not a sense of superiority at all, but give us confidence that God has called us to be God's ambassadors. And just that word ambassador makes me think again of the man we saw tonight from Sierra Leone, who was such a wonderful ambassador for this cause, the water steps, who he is a field ambassador for, but also for another passion that was close to his heart, which was he sort of apprenticed as a bicycle mechanic in his country, and then he made some connections and was able to begin to get bikes into the country, and then to not only be a bicycle mechanic himself, but teach others to do this, so that the end goal being, it's hard to get from one place to another. And he mentioned particularly it's hard for girls who are trying to go to school, for women at times to get from one place to another, and bicycles give them a way of getting around. And so it's a passion of his, and he's very passionate when he talks about it. And you can tell that it's important to him, and you can tell he's confident as he talks about it. But he does it in a way that still is. It is never about, look at this amazing thing that I'm doing. It's look at this amazing thing that's happening, that I am a part of, and that you are a part of when you participate in this activity of supporting this work with him. So I think that's a great way of thinking about what it is that we are God's ambassadors. It's not that we're looking at ourselves and saying, look what we've done. It's that we say, look what God has done. Look what we've experienced that God has done in our lives, and what we believe God can do if God is a part of your life as well. So I invite you at this time to join me in a time of prayer. God of the prophets, we thank you for this prediction of a king who arrives in peace on the back of a donkey. May we worship you as we rejoice in his arrival. Amen. See you Sunday if you're in the area. Please come out for Sunday school, 9:45, worship at 11 a.m. It's Hebron Presbyterian Church right on the corner of Old Preston Highway and Hebron Lane, right across from Hebron Cemetery and Freedom Elementary School. We have had a couple of folks recently who began watching the worship videos and then decided to come and participate. And if that's you and you're watching and you don't have a church home, I invite you to come and worship with us. And of course, you are always more than welcome to participate through the Wednesday evening prayer videos and the worship videos as well. But Sunday school is 9:45, worship's at 11, and then back here next Wednesday for Wednesday evening prayer.